Welcome back to Wine, Whiskey, and Words, the podcast where we drink boldly, talk loudly, and overthink just about everything. I'm Brad, your host, wine enthusiast, music addict, and someone who firmly believes every conversation starts with a bold opinion and ends with, but I could be wrong. And as always, I'm joined by my co-host Daniel, a man who treats Google like a second brain, still believes rebooting fixes everything, including relationships, and once tried to install antivirus software on his smart fridge. He's the whiskey to my wine, the glitch in my matrix, and the only guy I know who once argued with a flight attendant that not being served a beer flight on a plane was a breach of contract. Together, we've tackled life's burning questions like, where should we really be traveling, and are we just tourists with better shoes? Which childhood candies deserve a comeback, and which ones probably violated food safety laws? How do you deal with rejection without spiraling into a week-long relationship with your couch? And what movies actually deserve a spot on our personal top 5 list, and which ones only made the cut because Blockbuster tricked us into renting them way too many times? But today we're doing something different. We've swapped out the wine and whiskey for hops and barley, and we're recording live from Hop State Brewing, one of Tampa's newest breweries. That's right, it's a beer episode. Expect some flights, some foam, and probably at least one questionable IPA take about why every beer name sounds like either a heavy metal band or a rejected Pokemon. So grab a glass, lower your expectations, and let's dive into another episode of Wine, Whiskey, and Words, where the pours are heavy and the logic is negotiable. And over here, you see someone new. It's Ed Valenti, one of the owners of Hop State Brewing. And I think I've probably known you for at least like 12, 13 years, something like that. Brewing out of your garage. With some really freaking fantastic stuff.
Awesome.
What we're going to start with is, as normal, what's going on in our lives. Daniel?
Yeah, so as always, great introduction, Brad. You nailed it again. Much better than my old introductions. But yeah, interesting things in my lives. I've just been traveling a lot lately. My wife and I went on a cruise and had a short stop in Puerto Rico on the way, which was really nice. I actually kind of got on a beer kick for a while there because I was trying all the beers in the islands. And then most recently, I actually just got back yesterday from Kansas City. She's there for work, and I just tacked some on at the beginning of the trip. And so that's really it in my life. It's just a lot of travel. I'm a little burnt out on travel now. I'm looking forward to some time with my bed.
I'll actually be traveling again. I got invited to another Grand Cruise celebration with Cooper's Hawk, so I'll be going there in right after I get back from my next cruise. Taking my mother on a cruise. So
you got to take care of mom.
Drink package.
Yeah, you got to take care of mom.
So actually, my mother doesn't drink.
Oh.
But because the level I'm at with the casino, anytime I'm in the casino, I can drink for free. So I just got to hit the casino, drink, leave. There you go. I just hope the casino's open a lot.
And hope they're not listening to the podcast.
Yeah, well, I don't get. They know. But that used to be how if one person didn't drink in the cabin, they can get like a soft drink package, and you could get. They don't do that anymore with Royal Caribbean. Yeah,
pretty much. But so many people were abusing it, they took it away. So
yeah.
How the hell do you abuse tea and lemonade? I mean,
well, like somebody would say, my wife doesn't drink. I'm the only one that drinks, and then they're just feeding their wife drinks the whole time.
Makes sense. That kind of abuse.
Exactly. So let's take a look at the beer we got over here. So I told me he put these in order 9 to 12. What do we got here, Ed?
Yeah. So number 9 is going to be one of our newest beers. It's a new style for us. It's called Bella Birra. So Bella Birra is Italian for beautiful beer. It's a collaboration with Mike Bode from Southern Brewing and Wine, amazing brewer, close friend of mine. Wanted to brew something that we both wanted to explore a little bit more of, have fun with it, and create something that the masses would like. I'm not personally a very big beer-flavored beer guy. I typically like barrel-aged stouts and barley wines and other crazy stuff like that. But it really is a beautiful beer. It is uh, a great representation of the style. Um, it's light, it's effervescent, it's slightly dry, and it's got that little bit of spice from the hop.
Yeah, I found as I've gotten older, I mean, I used to be one of those guys that would drive in from Jacksonville to hit Angry Chair, to hit Cycle for the releases. I just can't do those heavy beers anymore.
Right.
And now I'm finding myself drawn a little bit more to this style.
Sure.
And what I like is you said exactly it's dry, but then you've got that hops on the back end,
Yep.
give you a little bit of that maltiness.
Sure.
Yeah, what I find is like pilsners are often just kind of boring. Like, especially a lot of the stuff you can get in the grocery store
Sure.
is just dull and boring. So anytime I can, if I'm at a brewery, I like to try their pilsner. And this one, I said immediately, wow, this has a lot of flavor for a pilsner. That's not something we commonly see here in the States. It's not something people do a lot. Because usually when they're making a pilsner, they're making it for like the masses.
Right, and a lot of your larger breweries are doing pilsner because it still has an alcohol content, usually significantly lower. This one's a little bit above what a traditional pilsner is at 5.9, so a little higher. But the goal was just to really pack it with flavor and deviate from the Bohemian style or the Czech style and make it a little bit more of an Italian style. And with that said, kind of to your point, a lot of these big breweries that do pilsners and equally lagers, which is very similar in style, they do them because they can be produced with the bare minimum amount of product. So the bare amount of grains, the bare amount of water, yeast, hops. Granted, they do take a long time because the lagering process is a lot different than a standard fermentation. But again, it allows them to produce the beer at the lowest cost per ounce. And that's where small breweries like us that are operating on a 10-barrel system and doing half batches at 5 barrels are really able to focus on dialing in that recipe and controlling the flavor and the quality that the big breweries just can't do because they're trying to cut all those corners on cost.
Makes a lot of sense.
So what's this next one here?
So the next beer is called Strata Smash. Smash is an acronym for single malt and single hop. So we don't really do core beers here. However, we do core styles. So the Smash beer is a core style for us. So a Smash beer, again, single malt and single hop. The idea behind this beer is to use only 2-row grain, water, yeast, and 1 hop throughout the process. So we introduce the hops in different stages. We do it late in the boil or at flame out, which is when the heat is cut off. We add it into the whirlpool, which is the kettle directly behind me, where we reduce the temperature, and then we basically create a whirlpool or spin the hops at lower temperatures, extracting more of the flavor and aroma as opposed to the alpha acids, creating a lot of intense bitterness. And then we dry hop it, which is going to give you a lot of aromatics from the hops. The idea behind the Smash Beer series here is really to educate our consumers. What we want to do is we want to create better beer drinkers that'll help us sell better product. So what we do with this beer, again, is we only utilize 1 hop. So nowadays, in most of your modern IPAs, there's anywhere from 2 to 5, 6, 7 different hops in any of those IPAs. And it's very hard for your palate to discern what hop is doing what. What hop's providing the bitterness, what's providing the aroma, what's providing the flavor, and which one does what. So by doing the Smash series and introducing only 1 hop at multiple stages throughout the brewing process, we're able to show you what it does in terms of bittering, we're able to show you what it does in terms of flavor, and what it does for aroma. So with this beer, we chose a hop called Strata, which has notes of ripe pineapple. So one of the things that you'll notice in this beer is that it's very sweet, not very sweet, but sweet up
Reminded me of
front.
Fruity Pebbles.
Yeah, you get a sweet kiss up front, and then it sort of fades into a light, dry bitterness, but not overly aggressively bitter and not long-lasting on the palate.
Now, one of the things you said is you want to develop a better beer drinker. You mean more knowledgeable?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So we really want people to be able to understand what all these different hops do. Granted, we do a variety of IPAs. The one that I'm drinking now is our newest one called Relic of Damnation, which has 2 different hops. One of the other ones in the flight here, which is called Into the Evergreen, has 3 different hops. But it is very hard for the average beer drinker or consumer to really be able to discern what each of those different hops presents in the finished product. So by doing the Smash series and rotating the hop every time we brew it, it allows people to come in and say, hey, that last one I really liked. I got the pineapple, I got some of this note. The next one, oh, well, I got a completely different flavor out of it. What was that hop again? And now your brain starts to comprehend and understand, okay, I know what this hop tastes like, and this hop, and this hop. So then as you begin to see them featured in other beers, and then you say, oh, okay, well, I know that this hop gave me pineapple. The next one we're going to do is Sabro Smash, which Sabro has very large underlying notes of coconut. So it's more of a creamy sort of an approach rather than an acidic fruit.
Damn it, Ed,
So-
you're gonna get me back into beer.
So, when you marry that up and then you do, our last beer that sold out really quickly, which was called Temple of the Sun, was Strata and Sabro.
Yeah.
So the coconut undertones from the Sabro hops really kind of balanced out that sweetness and the acidity from the pineapple. But again, exposing customers to that and educating them on that, they're able to understand now what they want in their IPAs.
So this next one is the one that you're drinking, right?
The next one is
This is number
that
11, Relics of
is-
Damnation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That is Relic of Damnation. That is our new single hazy IPA. We used a very new yeast strain on that we were offered by a new yeast supplier to try out. It targets different biomarkers in the wort. So there are all different things in the wort that the yeast target. This one only targets one specific thing. So you'll notice it's got a very tropical sort of a thing going on with it. The yeast really creates a lot of haze stability, and it also creates just very, very tropical stone fruit, ripe fruit notes. And then we married it up with 2 brand new to market hops that were formerly HBCs, which are how hops are labeled before they're actually given a name and put into production. So these 2 hops are Dolcita and Crush. And the combination of those hops is that of abundant ripe guava, peaches, some nectarine, a little stone fruit, and another overwhelming note of orange cream.
Yeah, so this one, unlike the other one, like the first one or the second one, I really liked because you get a lot of that floral sweet, like you said, the sweetness to it. But this one, it kind of like caught me off guard because you got a lot of that bitter nose when you tasted
It's
it.
a lot of the grapefruit.
But as
Right.
it soaks in, like you said, you get peach, like
Yep.
you're like sucking on a peach pit. It's
Yep.
really awesome. I
Yep,
like this.
absolutely. And it's all, again, it's about where the hops are put in during the process. A lot of people don't understand that. And different brewers subscribe to different methodologies. So here, we typically don't do boil hops. So a lot of your traditional IPAs, a lot of your West Coast IPAs and things of that nature. So when you look at Dogfish Head and you look at 120 and 90 and 60 minutes, that
Yeah.
basically is how long the hops are boiled. So as you notice in those beers, they progressively get more bitter the higher the number goes up, and that's because they're boiling those hops for a more extended period of time. The longer you boil the hops, the more alpha acid you're going to extract and the higher level of IBUs in the beer you're going to achieve. We typically do not do boil hops here. We throw them in at what's called flame out. So after the beer is done boiling, we turn the heat off, then we begin our whirlpool and transfer pumps, and then we throw the hops in. So they're not getting hit with extreme boiling temperatures at 212 degrees for an extended period of time. So the amount of alpha acids that are extracted into the beer are significantly less, thus creating a more pillowy, more fruity sort of a profile.
Now, I might be jumping the gun a little bit, but you got my mind rolling a little bit with how passionate you are about beer.
Sure.
Are you thinking of, in the future, offering classes?
I mean, it's not something that we've ever really thought of. My homebrew club that I came from, Special Operations, a lot of great brewers have come out of that club. Tyler Rosenberg, I forget where he's working at a brewery in Orlando now. Baker Thorpe worked at a couple of places here. He's now at Sideward Brewing up in Orlando. Both came from the same homebrew club.
Oh, yes,
and
Sideward's
now-
fantastic.
Yep. and now myself, who owns my own brewery. So a lot of great brewers that have come out of that club. Um, there are a lot of them that come in here regularly and still chat because I'm not able to make it to meetings anymore now that I own a brewery. So they will come in here. But we would love to have them out and probably do like a demonstration. Some other breweries do that where they'll bring in home brewers and let them set up on premises, and a bunch of the guys will brew beer, and customers can kind of engage with them and learn the process. I don't know that I would necessarily ever do a class, but I also, even as the head brewer, do quite a few shifts every week behind the bar, and it gives me a great chance to interact with the customers. And every passion that you see here in the podcast today
Right.
is conveyed with my customers behind the bar. I mean, I'm always talking about beer, and I always want them to know we have no secrets here. We don't hide anything that we put in our beer. We tell everybody what's in our beer. We tell everybody what our process is. I'm not worried about anybody stealing recipes or, stealing processes or anything like that. That's the great thing about the brewing community and the industry as a whole, is everybody's willing to educate and share to make better brewers and make the industry better as a whole.
That's awesome.
All right, so this
I can
one.
hold this if you want. I feel awkward. Like, should have brought
Yeah.
a third mic.
Well, I'm holding over here, so
Yeah,
it's gonna catch us.
Yeah, between the three of us, we got to.
So
Sure.
So over here we have into the Evergreen.
Into the Evergreen. So that's my favorite beer on tap right now. That is a big, juicy, hazy
This is crushable.
double IPA.
Yeah.
And you'd never know that it was 9.6%. 9.6%. It's almost a triple.
I don't say this much. This will fuck you up.
Oh yeah. I mean, there was a guy that was coming in a couple of weeks ago that probably bought us out of a lot of the 4-packs of that.
Yeah.
So that beer was kind of a real passion project. So I have a brother from another mother, Joshua Green. He lives in Kentucky. Met him there years ago as I was traveling the Bourbon Trail, doing my thing up there, and decided that after a week long of drinking bourbon, I needed some good craft beer, and stumbled into a little tap house in Bardstown, Kentucky, where him and I met, and then proceeded to get completely shit-faced sharing bottles the next night, and we've been friends ever since. He's here in Florida regularly, and he's put a lot of time and effort for nothing into this brewery simply because he wants to see me and the guys successful. So we told him that we wanted to brew a beer for him and make it an ode to him. So his last name is Green. He owns a major construction company in Louisville, Kentucky called Evergreen Construction. So I asked him what kind of beer he wanted, and he said, I want a big IPA. And I said, okay, pick your favorite hops. And he picked Citra, Galaxy, and Mosaic. And we went to work, and I wrote the recipe. We brewed the beer, and it came out way better than we ever expected. I mean, the flavor, the dryness, the level of bitterness on it. I mean, it's just top to bottom. It's hands down probably my favorite beer that we have on tap right now.
I think you nailed it. Like what I don't like about IPAs is something that I picked up when IPAs really started like becoming very popular in America. Everybody was like, let's see how bitter we can make it. Let's see how strong we make it. And that's fine, but you kind of lose something when you go that way. This has a lot of flavor and some bitterness, but not overwhelming.
Right.
And I feel like the Evergreen, like it almost has like a gin flavor to it. So you get a little bit of that green out of it. So
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, and I mean, building an IPA like this is all about that delicate dance that you want to do. Like you said, you want to be able to get some of all those elements in there. I personally like my IPAs a little bit on the drier side than the sweeter side. That's just me personally. It's not necessarily everybody, but I do believe that a good IPA should have a certain level of dryness to it and not be overly sweet. But again, almost 14 years brewing now, you learn a lot and you do a lot of trial and error with mash temperatures and various other things in order to be able to perfect those recipes. And really, again, create a very well-rounded beer where it's almost kind of like you're a DJ taking your customers or your audience on a journey. You start here and you finish here, and you want that experience to be well-rounded top to bottom.
Now, what is your hands down favorite style?
Barrel-aged stouts. Still a big lover of barrel-aged stouts.
Do you see that happening in the future?
We actually just filled barrels
Really?
yesterday, So we're fortunate again, having strong ties to the bourbon community, knowing a lot of guys here in the Tampa Bay area that are doing a lot of trips to Kentucky and doing barrel picks. Obviously, you guys know whiskey and talk about it quite a bit. So a really good friend of mine, Tommy, the candy man over at David Off Geneva, gave us a Russell's Reserve 10-year store pick barrel that we put a big 12.7% stout into yesterday. I'm flying up to Kentucky later this month to pick up more barrels and drive them back so that we can begin filling those. It's a labor of love, and again, being a big whiskey and bourbon aficionado, I love taking a stout that can marry up with the complexities of the grain bill of a whiskey or a bourbon and everything that the oak imparts into it, and just mixing all of those together to create one product that you're getting kind of the best of both worlds in it.
So I'm curious, like you talked about the smash, how you're
Yep.
trying to get people to understand what the hops taste like, what they add, what they do for the beer.
Sure.
So you obviously know this, but what's your process look like when you sit down and go, I'm gonna make a beer? Like, what's your process look like?
Yeah. So, I kind of look at a couple of key things. I first of all, in the IPA game, right now there's a lot of things going on in that game, and there's a big movement. Kind of, when you look at, the Relic, it is a lot paler than a traditional IPA. However, it's got more of a pillowy creaminess to it. So in a lot of the IPAs now, a lot of brewers have begun switching over from two-row, which is very commonplace, which is what is used in the Strata Smash, which you can see simply by looking at those, the color difference in between the Relic and the Strata. Two-row is going to be kilned a little bit more, so it's going to be a little bit more of a rich golden color, whereas in a lot of our hazies, we like to use Pilsen malt. And Pilsen malt does not have the Lovibond, which is how grain color is measured. It doesn't have the same Lovibond that two-row does, so it imparts a much fairer, more kind of a pale yellow color. So that's first. I really think about what I want the visual perception to be to the customer. So how do I like that? So for instance, and it's a really good lineup here because Strata Smash is all two-row. Then the Relic is no two-row at all. That is just Pilsen malt and a couple of other grains, but those don't really impart any color. And then the last one, the Into the Evergreen, is a mix of those two grains. So you can see simply by looking at those different beers how the color changes depending on the percentage of those grains that you use. So that's definitely something that I think about when I write my recipes is what do I want my color to look like? What is that going to look like and how is it going to present to the end user, the customer basically. So think about that a lot. And then, the percentage of flaked oats and flaked wheat that go into it, which is very common in a hazy IPA. What is that mouthfeel perception going to be like on your palate? Again, the Strata Smash doesn't have oats or wheat in it, so you're not getting that same pillowiness that you do out of the hazy IPAs. So that's also a big consideration. And then really, again, two other key factors are, what do you want your IBUs to be, which is international bittering units. How bitter do you want that beer to be? And where are you going to add the hops in the process to achieve that? Do you want, a balance of bitterness, aroma, and flavor? Do you want one to be, more prevalent than the other? And then mash temperature. Mash temperature also greatly dictates how dry the beer is going to be. So the lower your mash temperature is, the drier that beer is going to be. So, we usually like to do our IPAs in or around the 150 to 152 range. Obviously, 152 is going to present on your palate as a little bit sweeter. 150 is going to be a little drier.
Now,
That's really cool. Thank you very much.
You've been brewing for 14 years. Thank you for answering one of my questions before I even asked it. Hop State has been open for less than a year now, right?
3 months.
3 months.
Yep.
So what was your biggest challenge, and what would you have done differently?
Oh, man. Well, there were a lot of challenges, honestly. It took us the better part of a year to open. So we bought out an existing brewery. This was a brewery before. Um, the owner started to experience some, health issues, and I think just kind of had run its course. Um, Maybe didn't have the passion for it as much anymore. Maybe just, wanted to retire at his age. He is quite a bit older than myself. So, it might have just been that time. So, we looked at the system, which was originally up for sale, which is a beautiful system. Premier Stainless, in my opinion, makes some of the best equipment in the beer industry. They've been around for a long time. They stand behind their product. Their welds are exceptional. Just a really, really good, long-standing company. A lot of other companies in the beer industry come and go. They'll make equipment for a couple of years and don't support it, and then they're gone. Not Premier. So for me, it's kind of like the Bugatti of the brewing industry. So it was a big part of the reason why I wanted to come in and take a look at it. And then upon doing so, we kind of, said, hey, what's going on here? Why are you selling the equipment? And then basically just said, hey, would you consider a full buyout? So it gave us the ability to already be kind of halfway there. The system was already in, it was already plumbed, everything was already there, although we did make some changes to it. We pulled out some larger fermenters and put in a lot of more small fermenters, allowing us to do more batches in smaller numbers than bigger batches in less numbers. But that being said, all the things that we've done over the last year to make this our own, it needed basically a full remodel. We didn't want any semblance of the former brewery to be here at all, other than the customers that still frequent us that used to come to the prior brewery. We wanted a complete 180 from what it used to be, from the image to the beer to everything. So that being said, I would still love to one day open up maybe another Hop State location in another city or state, and build it from the ground up. Because building it from the ground up, as the head brewer and an owner, you can dictate everything as you want it to be. Whereas here, it was a little bit more of kind of trying to slam a square peg into a round hole, if you will, and saying, okay, well, this is already here. I'm going to deal with this, and I'll work around it. Or, okay, this suits my needs. But it's a little bit of kind of finesse and adjusting to really sort of make it your own. But I think that would probably be, if I was going to build a brewery again, even though I would know it would take exceptionally longer to be able to open from start to finish, 3 to 5 years possibly, as opposed to 1 year, having something start from ground zero and saying this is exactly how I want every element of every aspect to be would probably be the answer to that.
Okay. What is your favorite beer memory?
Ooh, my favorite beer memory. That's a tough one. I mean, it's really tough because, I'm Sicilian. I was raised in a very big Italian household. I was given table wine at 8 and probably drinking beer by 12. So it's why I love beer. I was never a binge drinker. I was taught a fundamental respect and appreciation for alcohol. So I was never one of those kids in high school that, did beer runs at 7-Eleven and stole Natty Ice. Just never did that. I was always drinking better beer because of my parents and grandparents. And then I got to a point where I just loved it so much and I enjoyed it. I said, I want to take a stab at it. I think I can do this or I can do better. And said, hey, let me do that. But over the entire lifespan of drinking beer, it's really, really hard to say. We've won so many great awards. Everything from BJCP, which is more perfect to style beer, Beer Judge Cicerone Program Awards, beginning in home brewing, and then kind of getting away from that and doing more of the People's Choice Awards. I would definitely say that those are some of my fondest memories, because the reason we got away from doing the BJCP sanctioned events is because those judges judge your beer more on how perfect to the style it is, as opposed to what do the fans like the most.
Is it actually good, right?
Right, exactly. So, when my partners joined with me to build Hop State as a brand and as a brewery, they were already drinking my beer. They were already seeing me flourish and shine at events and win some awards. But they came on and said, hey, how can we do more? How can we make more batches? How can we make bigger batches? And how can we do more events? And I think that's really, as a whole, the fondest memory is being able to do a lot of these events, from all the beer and burger throwdowns that happen around the Bay Area, to the um, Almost There event that the Tampa Bay Beer Week Committee puts on specifically for home brewers, to the Tallahassee Beer Festival, which we've done a number of years, which is an amazing event. They treat brewers exceptionally well, both pro and home brewers. Just those events where you get to interact with people and get honest, world feedback, and then get judged on not necessarily how perfect to the style the beer is, but just how well they love it. I think those are probably, as a whole, the fondest memory. I don't know that I could necessarily pin it down to just one over all these years, but just doing the People's Choice Awards and the more beer festival style events where it's common everyday people that are coming and drinking your beer and you get to talk to them about it. I think those are probably the best memories.
Okay.
So talking about your like you keep talking about homebrew, and I recognize that that's where a lot of people start. Do you still like today, if you come up with a recipe and you're like, I want to make this beer, do you make a small batch first and go, does this work? And if it works, you maybe tweak it and scale it up, or do you just start big?
I mean, it really depends. With the IPAs, I kind of know where the ends of the spectrum are. So I can do it on a bigger system like this because I kind of can use my software and my numbers and all of my data to be able to plot what that beer is going to be. And now, having done numerous IPAs on this system, I kind of know what it's capable of and what it can produce. If it was going to be a newer style of beer, maybe something I don't have a ton of experience brewing, or maybe even if it's something that I've never brewed before. I've brewed a lot of styles of beer, but there's so much beer that I'm sure there are styles that I haven't really gotten into a whole lot and done a lot of. I built a pretty good system at the house. It's a 1-barrel custom spike eHerm setup, so it's definitely well beyond just buckets at this stage. Probably about $20K invested into the home brewery. 50-gallon pots capable of 1-barrel production. But yes, to your question, if it was something that was radically different or hadn't really been tested or didn't have a lot of experience with, then yeah, I probably would test it. Whether we would do it at the house just for old time's sake and memories and sweat it out, or bring that system in here and brew it in the back in the AC, would be determined. But yeah, I mean, we would probably prototype it on the smaller system and see how it came out.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people talk in terms of, pairing food with wine.
Yep.
Translating that to beer, would you translate that to beer? And then what foods would pair with what beers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different styles of beer. When we talk about sour beer that has fruit and other things of that nature, we have 2 sours on right now that both use a mix of marshmallow and vanilla beans. And the reason behind that is that because you get the acidity of the fruit up front, but the marshmallow and or the vanilla bean on the back end sort of helps to kind of relax your palate and sort of dial down that bitterness and that acidity that you get right out of the gate from the beer, and makes it more palatable. So a beer like that, I could easily see something with vanilla being paired with it, or something with marshmallow. Let's just even say that one of those sours didn't have those notes. You could then pair it with that, which would be kind of, a yin and yang sort of a scenario. And then, a lot of your big stouts pair really well with desserts, with chocolates and other things of that nature, because there are so many nuances from that already exist in the beer. Notes of coffee, butterscotch, and baked bread, and things of that nature in barley wine. So yeah, I mean, anything is really possible. I think where you may get into a little bit of uncharted territory, is if you really start trying to pair maybe seafood or steak or things of that nature. So you really got to be cognizant of what you're pairing with it. I think for beer, desserts tend to work a little bit better. Not to say that some of those bigger foods like that can't pair well with a beer, but it's more from the perspective of what's going on with your palate You know, if you eat a big juicy steak and then you drink something like a Bella Bira, you know, what is that going to do to your palate? You know, it's going to kind of readjust your palate and dry it out again so that when you take another bite of steak, it's going to be like your very first bite of steak. It's not going to be like, you know, you've been eating that 12-ounce porterhouse for the last 35 minutes, that by the seventh bite, eighth bite, your palate has kind of become acclimated to it, and it's not as juicy, it's not as savory as it was on the first bite. But then you take a sip of something like Bella Bira or perhaps a lager or something of that nature, it's going to kind of reset your palate and sort of dry it out again, so that when you take another bite of that steak, it's going to be like experiencing it all over again.
That's why I hadn't even my view. I had automatically thought of like Russian Imperial Stout for a steak, but that blew my mind with
Yeah.
that what you just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always told people back, because I used to just, when I met Brad actually, I only drank craft beer and some liquor, but I really wasn't into wine at all. Nowadays, I'm more wine centric just because my wife told me I was getting fat and I was drinking too much beer. But yeah, like I always told people, like, look, don't say you don't like beer. Just say you don't like any of the beers you've had
Right.
yet.
Exactly.
And I feel like it does have, like, beer does have the diversity, all of the diversity that wine does. It's just, you got to look for it a little harder.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't make a big deal of that in the beer, like beer. Well, this beer community does, but the
Sure.
bigger beer community,
Right.
you get Bud
exactly.
Light and Michelob. You know, that's
and
it.
that's it's funny that you say that, because you know there's so many times, you know, that I run across people in just everyday life, um, you know, that when I tell them that I own a brewery, oh well, I don't like beer, and the first thing that I say to them is, let me guess, you had a bad experience where you drank a piss warm Corona or a hot Budweiser or something like that, and it was absolutely wretched and disgusting. Yeah. Well, most people don't understand that 90% of what's on the market, or at least what was on the market several years ago, was all lagers. And lagers are lagered, cold. They're meant to be drank extremely cold. It's why Coors put the Blue Mountains on the can, because if the mountains aren't blue, the beer's not cold. And you probably should chill it and drink it, because those beers are not meant to be drank at room temperature or anything less than that. So many people drink beer and say they don't like it because they've only had that one style, which is huge in America, and they've had an experience where they've drank it less than cold and it wasn't desirable. So often I meet people that, you know, I tell them, hey, I have a sour beer on tap that's tangerine, marshmallow, and vanilla bean. It tastes like a push pop or a dreamsicle. And they're like, what? That's beer? That's crazy. You know, or hey, I've got an imperial stout that's got graham cracker and cheesecake in it, and it tastes like dessert. And they're like, what? That's beer? No, that's not beer. Yeah, it is beer. The beer isn't just the lager that you've got in a warm can.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us what's going on here, what things you have working on, and generally where you're located so that people can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of really cool stuff going on here. You know, we're rapidly growing and continuing to push boundaries. So again, we've only been open for 3 months. We built a really beautiful patio outside. So, you know, as it begins to get cooler, you know, you've got nice space and seating to be able to go outside and enjoy your beer. We've got a really elevated vibe here in the tap room. We really went for a very kind of prohibition, sort of a bourbon rickhouse sort of a style, with all of the old wood, the barn wood, a lot of the old rusted steel and metal and things of that nature. But we wanted to really be able to create a place here that people felt comfortable. All of our tables are custom made. We wanted to offer a lot of different seating options, from high tops to the couch and living room style seating area to low tops and things of that nature. You know, we've begun to start putting beer every time now in cans so that people can take home beer. So we have our single door cooler up at the front that we now have loaded with a lot of different styles of beer. So every time something comes out of our bright tank, we peel off a certain amount and put it in cans immediately. So it's canned right off the tank, as fresh as it can be, and goes into the cooler so people can take it home. So we now have that option. We also have a growler machine up front. So a lot of people were traditionally doing the larger 32-ounce growlers. We opted for 16-ounce growler cans, which are a little bit more approachable. You don't need 3 guys to suck down one big can. Or if you decide on a weeknight that you want to crack it open, you're not left with a half a can of beer that you wasted because it's flat tomorrow. You can, drink one 16-ounce can. So
Well,
we have
that was part of the problem, though, that because she made him quit the beer because he was drinking the big
the
ones.
big crowlers.
Yeah.
Well, I think COVID's really what got me because I had a place that would go and fill the cans, and you'd sit there and you'd drink a 32-ounce beer on a weeknight, and the next day you're like, whoa, I just shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And it caught up to me,
Yeah. So I mean, we wanted to have that option for customers. And again, it's all about being able to offer different things for customers and diversity. So you can take a 4-pack home, but if you don't want to take 4 of them home and you want to buy one single one, we can crowler that for you as well too. If it's something that we don't presently have in cans, we can can it for you on site right off the tap and send you home with it. So we're doing that. We've got a lot of fun events going on. Tuesday we do a locals night, so anybody that lives within a 5-mile radius gets 20% off their tab for the evening. Wednesday night, tonight, we do a puzzles and pints sort of an idea where it's a speed puzzling competition, and it's also our heroes and hospitality night. So first responders, teachers, law enforcement, military, and anybody in hospitality gets a 20% discount. Thursday night tomorrow is our trivia night every week. Coming up on the 9th of October, we're doing a Harry Potter themed trivia night. If you come in dressed up, you get a free answer to a question. So we do a lot of things to mix it up like that. We also are bringing in live music. We've got some really great live music acts lined up over the course of the next month. So on alternating nights, sometimes it's Friday, sometimes it's Saturday, but we bring in a lot of really good Bay Area music artists to keep guests entertained. We also have a very robust rotating food truck schedule. So having ties to culinary and existing in that world for a very long time, I'm a major foodie. So we really look for a lot of the hot new guys in the industry that are really pushing boundaries and really self-promoting on social media for their food truck. So we've had everything from tacos to lobster rolls to Mediterranean food. So, we run the gamut. Food trucks anywhere from 3 to 4 nights a week. We do Bucks watch parties on Sunday. So, wear your gear, get 10% off. We do beer shots for touchdowns. We celebrate watching the Bucks game and have a good time. We usually bring food trucks out for that as well, and we do 50-50 raffles. We've got night markets going on now. So the second Friday of every month, we do a massive market that takes up our entire parking lot. So that brings out a lot of people with really cool vendors, live music, food, the whole 9 yards. Our Halloween edition is this Friday, the 10th of October. So it's more of a family-themed event. We're going to do face painting for the kids. We're going to do t-shirt making for the kids. All the booths will be decorated, and we'll be doing trick-or-treating for the kids. And then the 31st, we have our very first Hop-O-Ween, which is our Halloween. As you can see, the brewery was all decked out today for Halloween. We really love to get in the spirit, so that'll be a little bit more focused on the adults. We're going to do a bunch of different treatments on stouts, as well as some gluten-free sour beers for our Halloween event. So we're really going to amp it up and just, really do some fun stuff.
Awesome.
I do want to compliment you. When I walked in, this was not what I was expecting. Like a lot of new breweries, they're very industrial because they focused on the beer. They didn't really put a lot into the decoration.
Right.
You really kept it simple, but really nice on an elevated level. So I like it.
Attention to detail.
Yeah.
Attention to detail. So.
All right. Well, now we've come to a different part.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
before we
you
go?
can. Of course you
So,
can.
I have a lot of friends who love to homebrew, and they, there's always that moment, I'd imagine, where you go, I want to go beyond homebrew.
Right.
And do you have any advice for somebody who's at that level? Like, would you start a brewery versus just saying, maybe I just go, contract brew or something like that?
Right. Getting into the brewing industry, it's definitely one of, if not the best industries that I've ever existed in. So I fully love it, and I am wildly passionate about it. Everything from drinking it to making it to sharing the knowledge with other people. So I love all those avenues of it. So I would definitely say, if you have that level of passion for it, and it's not just about drinking it, it's not just about making it. If you love the whole experience of it, then push further. And I would definitely say start competing, start doing some events, start doing BJCP, start doing some People's Choice events, and put your beer out there and let people try it. And let people other than just your friends who are going to kiss your ass for free beer tell you how good the beer really is, and see what kind of a response you get. And if other people outside of your friend circle really like the beer and are inquisitive of it, then you may have something there, and then continue to push boundaries. Beer is creative. I am a creative at heart, and it's a creative outlet for me. I love being creative in beer. I don't want to be cornered, and I don't want to be backed against a wall to have to do any specific style or thing. I love learning all the rules so that I know how to break them. That's my mentality. And if you're a home brewer, break rules. Try crazy shit. We put cheesecake in beer. We were told that it wouldn't work and that it was a moronic idea, that just because you can doesn't mean you should. But you know what? It's one of our best beers, and it's wildly popular with people, and we still do the same practice today. So, have fun with it. Most of all, that's the biggest thing, is have fun with it. And if it really gets to a point to where after 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, you're still every bit as passionate about doing it, you still constantly think about it, and you're excited every day brew day is coming, then go for it.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. So now, I always pick an interesting one out of Reddit from the "Am I the Asshole?" This is a different. Now, in the past, I've usually read through them a bit. I haven't read this. I know very little about this. So this one is: Am I the asshole for moving to an apartment building with a concierge where visitors have to be ringed up to come upstairs to visit, so I'm not forced to babysit my half and step siblings? So this is what it's about. So 23-year-old female spent the last 3 years being forced to babysit my step and half siblings because parents would just drop them off at my place with no warning. It used to be when I lived with them I was forced to babysit, and they didn't care if I missed school or work. There were times when I was a minor I would miss so much school for having to go back and forth to different parents' houses. My parents are divorced and remarried. To babysit CPS for involved because of my truancy from school. Okay. Then I was grounded for them being put under investigation. Oh, that's great. So they made her do that, and then she's grounded. Oh, perfect. They were forced to send me back to school, but then I had to come home to whoever had custody of me that week and babysit, cook, clean, etc. while keeping my grades up so they didn't get in trouble. Fast forward. I moved into my own place when I was 19. My friend's dad owned property and knew my situation and gave me a good deal on one of his apartments, way below market value. Then my parents would drop my siblings off at my apartment with no warning. I lost my last job because of it, and all my parents said was, good, because now I could babysit full time. I finally put my foot down, and my father attacked me and backslapped me, telling me he didn't care how old I was to do as he said. All right.
Interesting.
My boyfriend told me to move in with him because his apartment building has a concierge where you have to be introduced and the tenant has to agree to let you up. So I sold all my stuff and moved in with my boyfriend. He had me put on the lease after finding a job and let my friend's dad know the situation. He let me put in my lease, no problem. Quit. The grammar here is not to be desired, but so apparently now her dad was just downstairs with the step and half siblings from him. 5 kids ranging in ages 3 to 10 trying to get up.
Oh, wow. I don't think we said 5 before, did we?
Yeah, no. I told the concierge they are never allowed up, and if they don't leave, to call the cops. So that's what they did. Now my dad and his wife are blowing up my phone, saying, you know what? I'm not even going to read further.
We're done.
The parents are dicks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
So I've said this before, like, there's this perception that, like, you're always your parents' children, but no, once you're an adult, you're an adult. and you're now peers. And like, yes, you are always their children, like at heart,
Right.
but it doesn't mean like you have to do what they say.
Right.
You are your own
exactly.
person, and you have to do what's right for you.
They need
so
to respect your boundaries as an adult. You've worked for 18 years to get to this point. You've earned your independence. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, to answer your, are you an asshole? No, absolutely not. However, now granted, I don't know if there was any context in there how long she was in a relationship with this guy. Does that make her a gold digger? I don't know, speculative. Depends on how long she was with him, but if she moved in with him just to solve this problem,
But he offered though.
right. There might be other reasons why he offered. You never know.
But like I love the idea that like somebody just says like no more, I'm done, and we're taught that it's sad that we're taught that we're the asshole for saying that,
Right.
no
You
more.
have to have boundaries.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that point. However, having to resort to that rather than having the backbone to simply just stand up and say no, and obviously from the context in the post, she's probably been through the ringer with her family, which is why she resulted to those measures. Instead of just, saying, hey, look, I'm drawing a line in the sand here. This is where it ends. This is what's going to happen. You're not going to do this anymore. But, because who knows? Maybe that wasn't the best solution for her to move in with him. Maybe she was better off on her own and keeping her relationship siloed at that point. And maybe she, because who knows? Now in 6 months her relationship might fail because they weren't ready to move in yet. But she moved in to solve this problem, whereas solving the problem should have been as easy as, hey, I'm an adult. I don't live under your roof anymore. You're not paying my bills. This is where it ends.
that's a really good point. Like sometimes having the conversation, no matter how bad it is and no matter how bad it gets, is better than like burning a bridge or going down a path that's maybe not healthy.
Right. And at that same token, hey, maybe her parents may actually have a little bit of respect for her, because it doesn't sound like, based on the post, they have any for her at all because of how they're using her. So maybe if she grew a backbone, and told them, hey, look, this is where I'm drawing the line, they'd have some respect for her and go, oh, shit, all right, But you never know. Every circumstance and everything like that is different. I definitely feel for her in that capacity. Doesn't sound like she hates the kids. It just sounds like it's more of an inconvenience for her life and everything. But it's, are you adding insult to injury? And, now you're in this situation. Are you going to solve this problem? Now you got a bigger problem over here. So just deal with it head on and, let the cards fall where they may.
100%.
But definitely wouldn't say she's an asshole.
Yeah. So now, the next episode. So we're going to be talking about celebrities who fucked up.
Yeah, put your foot in your mouth. Just made that dumb
derailed
mistake. Whatever it
derailed
was.
their career.
I feel like that's a recipe for a robust conversation.
Oh yeah, yeah. One of the things that we don't do is we don't do politics
Or religion.
But
Fair.
I will say this: we can make it political in this episode, but it's got to be all across the spectrum.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, and that'll be easy to do. And like without, I think you can talk about the incident without being political.
Sure.
So.
Well, Ed, thank you very much for having us over
Yeah,
here.
we appreciate you trusting
this
us.
Beer is fire, man.
And being our first interview, it's been a pleasure. And
Awesome.
like again, love the beer,
Well,
love the
we did
conversation.
have your daughter on.
Yeah, but that was less of an interview, just involving her in the
Okay, yeah.
conversation.
So you guys are definitely welcome back anytime. If you
Awesome.
wanna come and do another podcast, check on progress.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think like next year would be great. Like coming in and see like a year later, how is it looking?
Where are things in a year from
Yeah.
now?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Awesome.
Awesome.
All right. Signing off.